You all work for me now. Those are the words of Jon Moxley as the Blackpool Combat Club have taken over All Elite Wrestling.
I thought you were trying to tell me that Ollie's also now left. Yeah. You're next in command around here. I can believe it.
I guess, I suppose I would fall into the position of just like, I'm the next power down.
Yep.
And
the leader of the new world, Owen.
Yeah. So if he is the, I shouldn't really try and put it this way because he is involved in quite a heavy lawsuit, but if he's the Vince McMahon of the Power storyline, I guess that makes me Undertaker.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You do a good impression.
What do you fall into that then? Who in the corporate ministry? Which role do you fill? Midian, are you?
No, I do not like to be naked. I could be Christian.
Christian, or maybe Bradshaw.
No,
you could be the brawler of the group.
Sure.
Hey, welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of AEW Dynamite. Please do press that thumbs up and give us a little subscribe as well. Leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode of Dynamite. And if you want your thoughts read out on the air, WrestleTalk.com/support. Also, join our live chat if you're watching live. If you're just watching on demand, maybe leave your comment down below. I can tell that this is an episode of AEW Dynamite that has sparked interest back into this promotion, because we've had more Ultra Chats on this topic before we've gone live than we have had, I would argue, in some entire episodes of the WrestleTalk Podcast reviewing AEW Dynamite.
It's a good sign.
I think that's a really good barometer to look at of like how interested people are in an angle.
And not just interested like, I can't believe they did this, what a stupid company, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen next. Oh my God, it's sparking imagination of not only our listeners, but of me as well.
Me as well. I think you're right, like, because it's probably the Punk footage. I think it's probably the last time we had this volume of Ultra Chats come in before we've gone live. Mm-hmm. But that very much was I'm not sure that was the...
Why did you do this?
Why did you do this?
Yeah.
But is that it? Whereas this is just excitement about the angle. And there was kind of like, it was kind of spread across the first hour of the show. So at the end of WrestleDream, Moxley wins the AEW World Championship. He chokes out Bryan Danielson. And then they decided to murder him. And Wheeler Yuta, booted him in the face, choked him out with a bag. And then they kind of killed a lot of the locker room as well. And it really was like the end. It was like the end times. It was their Empire Strikes Back. It was their Infinity War. And like the last shot was just Orange Cassidy, Daniel Garcia, Hook, and Darby Allin just looking crestfallen. There
is no happy ending. Go home sad.
Yeah. Like Amanda Savage, who's one of our WrestleTalk.com writers, she was there live. And she was like, the air got sucked out of the building. And it was after the show ended. And there was like, I think everyone in the audience was like, yeah, but that's not the end though, is it? Like, there's something else that's going to happen. Then Justin Roberts comes on the house to be like, yeah, that's the end of the show, guys. You can all go home now.
Please go home now.
And then I went, oh, boo! Where's my happy ending? There was no happy ending. And there wasn't much of a happy ending here either, because the show opened with Moxley cutting this awesome promo.
It's like the best pre-tape vignette I have seen in years.
Oh my, this was so good. What I loved about it, I'm actually going to get the promo up because I know that our Twitter accounts typed it up verbatim. So I want to read it because it was like really so great. But what I loved about it in particular is that while Moxley is cutting this promo, it is intercut with the rest of the locker room looking sad and like this crestfallen AEW babyface locker room. Like they're just showing like the ambulance that's taking Bryan Danielson away from AEW more or less for good. And they're just standing there like hands on hips. Adam Cole's got his hands on his head. And all of them got this look of, well, now what? Oh, it was so great.
It's such a stark contrast to what we were just talking about in the AEW, for example, doing a show and people coming out of it and being like, upset with lots of feeling, and upset in a different way. Whereas this just has everybody playing the role of the Avengers at the end of Infinity War. And I came out of that movie just going, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What an impactful thing they've just done. And that's exactly how I'm feeling starting to watch Dynamite watching all these other people who are now these displaced baby faces, unsure of their place in the company and what this is going to mean, and immediately getting me invested in what's coming next, not just from your world champion and everything, but of all the individual characters that are getting planted and sprinkled throughout what we're going to see over the next months and perhaps a year plus.
No, exactly it, right? Like this is the most I've been excited to watch an episode of Dynamite. Not because like they had a big match announced that I wanted to see. Like I wanted to see Jay White and Christian. Like, you know, I wanted to see Shelton Benjamin's in-ring debut. But like the episodes where I found myself being like, man, I can't wait to watch Dynamite is when they've got a big marquee match. This is the first time I'm like, I want to see the next chapter of this story. Like I want to see what the next thing is going to happen in here. So I've got Moxley's promo here, which I will read out. Let me tell you something. Something has to be responsible when things get out of control, so I will be responsible. People think that they know what I'm about. They think they know what motivates me. They don't know anything. I have a dream of a land of opportunity where people come to AEW and they can achieve anything they want. They can be the best versions of themselves they can be. Wrestling gave me everything I have in the world. I want that for other people. 150 wrestlers on the roster, big fat paychecks, and their junk in their hands. What are they supposed to do? Where are they supposed to go? I hate what AEW has become. Egos out of control, celebrating when there's no need to celebrate, dancing and partying when there's no need for dancing and partying. I can't stand it anymore. I will burn down the forest to plant a new one. I'm not sentimental. I will do what has to be done. We will do what has to be done. We can see a better future and we will make it happen. If you want to come with us, you can come with us. If you don't, run while you can. Stand down while you can. Get out of our way. What's the need to know? For those in AEW, what's the need to know? What's the new paradigm? It's very simple. You work for me now.
Hot damn!
So good.
This is my pro wrestling. This is such a shot of adrenaline that this place has needed.
That's it, right? Like, I think it's coupled. It feels like Tony did this very much on purpose, where he's done this whole like new creative, like this is our new big angle that we're doing. We've been building this for like a couple of months, but now we are doing this new angle. Also, we're going to announce a match that's happening in 2 weeks' time to let you know we are also announcing matches 2 weeks ahead of time.
I saw that graphic come up, and I leaned forward in my chair. I was like, oh my God, things are getting fixed around here.
They did it at WrestleDream. They announced a match for Dynamite. I was like, whoa, holy. And then they did it again on this episode. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to Ladder War next week. I was like, what? And then there's like 2 weeks time. Yeah. It's like, man, this place is, Tony's seen what people have been saying on Twitter and he's like, oh, you want me to do it? I'll do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll plan matches.
Honestly, like my big thing years ago when talking about, you know, at the time, WWE was always the minus ones. The things that would be like on their own, not something that's going to ruin the show, you know, but it's just like throughout the show when they pile up, you just get this little tick again. Somebody goes to do their entrance and then 3 segments happening and then they come back to the ring and it takes you out of things because the pacing of the show is bad. On their own, that little segment doesn't ruin the show, but when it's little things throughout the entire show over and over and over again, it just brings down the overall enjoyment. That's kind of not to that extent, obviously. This is not WWE in 2021, but there were the little minus ones kind of happening throughout, you know, Dynamite as of late. And this is one where it's like, +1.
Yeah.
Just an immediate, like, I'm looking forward to that match. I'm going to see it in 2 weeks. Now I'm already thinking about this show 2 weeks' time. What a easy little win there to have for yourself.
I've said it once and I'll say it 1,000 times. When you are cold, you can do nothing right. And I feel like this was a company that just could do nothing right. Even when it was doing something well, and people were like really into Swerve and Hangman, there was a bunch of other stuff on the show that was like, yeah, but it's not great over there. There was like, hey, this Tony Storm Mariah May thing's really good. Yeah, but did you see what's going on over here? Like, because the whole company wasn't particularly hot, so much more of a focus is on the minus ones. This was a show that felt like it didn't have the minus ones on it.
No. And there's a lot, not to interrupt you, but there's a lot of reasons for that as well. Obviously, we're hot coming out of a pay-per-view, and it's a pay-per-view with a lot of interest. This was a really hot crowd, too, so everything on this show felt like it was hitting and hitting and hitting. And even matches where typical, you know, your every week Dynamite crowds might not be super into a Queen Aminata, for example. Here she was over, and the people were really into the match, and it made every single segment come out and just feel so hot. And that is exactly what we needed for a big pay-per-view post-episode of Dynamite.
When the show like had the Moxley promo and then it cut to the crowd, Excalibur literally said like, this is a new era of AEW. And it wasn't like, this is a new era. Like, we've got a new era here. I'm renaming the game. This was like, the landscape has changed. By the way, we're in a whole new ball game of AEW. And later on in the show, we had the Conglomeration versus the Elite. And what I really liked about this is that the Elite had kind of 2 segments beforehand, one of which was Private Party asking them for a rematch, and the Young Bucks doing that doesn't work for us, brother. And then just sort of walking away and then did something with Stokely Hathaway. Then they cut a promo on Kenny Omega. He's like for sure coming back. Right?
I have to imagine at some point soon.
Doing a promo on Kenny Omega is like, you don't do that unless Kenny is coming back relatively soon. But they did him a birthday cake and they poured like intestines on top of it to be like, now you can't have the birthday cake, bitch. And like it was yucking up the Elite. It's Okada being Okada. It's Jack Perry being Jack Perry. And then they go out for this match with the Conglomeration. And they are the Elite. And this is your fun standard trios match on Dynamite. And I was having a really, really good time with it. But at the start of the match, when Orange Cassidy was coming down, commentary were wondering out loud, it's like, I wonder if he could be one of the guys. Like, do you think he could be a guy that could step up to Jon Moxley? Because someone needs to step up to him. He's been here since day one. Do you think he could be him? So he kind of like planted that seed. Fun match. And then the BCC just show up, sort of like they wrestle for like 10 minutes or so. BCC show up, cause a DQ. Now, in a stone, so you'd be like, oh, boo, DQ. But this was all done for storyline reason. And it really highlighted the previous 2 segments with the Elite for what the Elite did here. Because they suddenly were like, whoa, oh, okay, well, we're not getting involved in this. Like, and they go up on the ramp and they are just watching this brutality unfold as the BCC decimate the Conglomeration. Top Flight run down and they decimate Top Flight. And they are stood on the ramp with this shocked look on their face, being like, oh no. Like, I know we're the bad guys, but they're the badder guys.
Yep. We're the cartoon silly bad guys.
That's it. And
those are the guys you don't want to face in a dark alley.
And like you could see that realization hit them of like, we thought we were running this company because that's what we were doing like back in February, but I guess we don't now. And they're sort of backing up the ramp. The Dark Order run past them. And they're literally screaming at them. It's like, do something. This is your company. Do something. And Jack Perry comes out. He's like, guys, we need to go. Like, we need to get out of here. And they bail. And after they had that segment there, Daniel Garcia like just goes back stage and like screaming at them, being like, this is your company. Why aren't you doing something about this? Why don't you care? You started this from day one. They're destroying it and you're letting them destroy it. And Daniel Garcia and Jack Perry get like so close. Like they were basically making out. They were like so close. It was proper like kiss him, you fool. Like nose to nose stuff. And that sets up a trios match, which they announced for next week's Dynamite. All of this can like combine together. I thought this was awesome.
So I have a lot of thoughts about all this because I thought this angle was incredible. Incredible. This was fantastic stuff. This was pro wrestling. And we said this was a hot crowd and everything. And this, I think, helped no segment more than when Jon Moxley walks out in the middle of this beatdown and is just getting booed vociferously. This is not a crowd that was angry with the company for how they decided to book the retirement of Brian Danielson, whatnot. This was, no, screw you, top heel. We want to see your ass get beat. So that's a big thumbs up. Good for San Jose. Good crowd. There are so many things to like about all this. First of all, match. Really fun. Really enjoyed this match. Just like you, I was about halfway through it going like, this is exactly the kind of match I want on Dynamite every week. Your fun trios match that's really enjoyable, kind of doesn't have to be silly, but the party match. The match where you're supposed to have some fun, where Orange Cassidy can go and do the one punch in the corner, which has now gotten over, so he's going to do it in every match, and everybody can pop big. The match where the Young Bucks can go and pump up their sneakers for 20 seconds so long that Kyle O'Reilly just gets up and goes, all right, I guess I'll just go and make the hot tag then. Really fun stuff. Good, like they were setting up Kyle O'Reilly and Kazuchika Okada as a Continental Championship match that's to come. Good stuff there. The setting up of the Elite beforehand can't be understated here. Because this is so important of reestablishing what their dynamic and all of this is going to be. Because, yeah, it's largely been the same thing with the Elite for much of this year. I've not super been into everything basically since
it started hot.
Yeah, it started really hot, and it's really disappointing because I thought the Succession Young Bucks at the start were like, oh, well, there's the new Young Bucks. We're about to go off on another great run. Sting and Darby Allin, they're going to have a great match, and off we go. And it's just not really been that. You know, the Young Bucks tag run, I think, has been a bit of a dud, the tag title run that being. And the Elite AEW rivalry, I don't think is sticking out in many people's mind as a highlight this year. However, I think they did a really good job of bringing them back to square one in the sense that this is what their character is. And then immediately after it, showing how that character, at least for the time being, is going to fit in with the rest of this story. Because, oh my God, there's so many characters now in play. And I think that, to me, is one of the most exciting parts of this. And one of the things that I think the success of this angle really hinges on is, how does it not just become AEW versus BCC? It needs to be Daniel Garcia and Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin and the Young Bucks and everybody are over here and private parties involved over there and Top Flight and Dark Order, whatever. The lower guys maybe don't need to matter so much. They can be fodder for the first few weeks, but how each of those main characters opposing the Blackpool Combat Club respond to all of this is going to dictate the success of this story. Because ultimately, it's about getting those guys to be your next top guys.
Okay, which is what the Blackpool Combat Club always wanted.
I said a few weeks ago, may have even been last week, that I'm really interested in where this story goes. I just haven't heard the theory that has made me go like, that's fantastic. I didn't care for the Shane McMahon rumors or theories.
This angle here is maybe, it's not
that.
Shane.
But that's what people have been saying, you know? And it's not been like, oh boy, I hope that happens. I've not felt that way about, like, Sami Callihan was a name that was bandied about. However, I can't remember who posted it, so I apologize. But I saw someone say a theory about all of this, that even if they don't overtly state it at any point, I'm choosing to believe currently is the story, where Jon Moxley, wanting to get this roster motivated and everything, knows that somebody just beating Bryan Danielson is not going to be enough motivation to make it happen, so he needs to make himself the villain who killed Bryan Danielson to get the opposing locker room motivated enough to step up to take him down. And it's for the good of the company that he's doing all of this. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the story they've been telling, just not quite stated as overtly. And I really like this idea that all the different comments over the last few weeks of like, Brian, you're going to see why we're doing this. In time, you'll understand that we had to sacrifice you for the betterment of this company. If that all comes to pass, and it is about getting Daniel Garcia and Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy and whoever else you want to throw into that mix to step up and be the next proper, no more of this pillars stuff, no more of this in 5 years time, whatever. In a year, if these guys, at least a few of them, are not your top guys in AEW, I'd be surprised, because that looks like the goal we're trying to get to here.
It looks like we are setting up the next few world title contenders to Moxley. So you could do the Orange Cassidy match. You can do a Daniel Garcia match. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a Hook match as well, because he was part of that final angle. If Cole was part of that final angle, maybe you do a Cole one as well. Ultimately leading up to Darby Allin. Darby Allin getting his revenge for Moxley beating him at Grand Slam and stealing away that title shot, stealing away his opportunity to potentially have the retirement match of Bryan Danielson in his home state. And he finally wins the gold, and he's the one who slays the big baddie. I feel like that's the sort of the world title scene, and I love that. And I think that's really good, because you're right. Like, this is all about building up a new main event scene.
Yeah.
And it's you know, people can mock Orange Cassidy as a decision because he's not a young guy. Because you know,
he's older than Jon Moxley.
Exactly. But you're looking at people like Garcia and Darby and Hook. Those are the ones you want to put the focus on. That's why I think you do Cassidy first, because Cassidy's already the established guy, so you can use him as the springboard to elevate up the newer, younger guys.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think this sets up lots to do for the rest of the year and into next year, which is very exciting, because I was saying this in the office earlier, even though we have had things like Swerve and Hangman, this great long-term story, the time where they took a break from that story was while Swerve was world champion, and thus the world championship was never quite the focus of the biggest story in the company. You could make an argument like month to month, Swerve and Ospreay was the top story for that month, right? But like in terms of the year, it's not been the focus of the company. Now it is. Now dethroning Jon Moxley is the biggest thing that you can do in AEW. And I think that adds incredible focus back onto the main event scene that I'm not saying it's lacked by any means, but it's real focus. It's the big freaking story of the whole year now.
And it's why I loved the WrestleDream finish. That we had quite a few odds chats in being like, well, what does Moxley get out of this? Like, Moxley didn't need to be the man to retire Danielson. I was like, no, but the guy who beats Moxley gets more than just beating Bryan Danielson and putting an end to the full-time in-ring career of the American Dragon. Like, you get so much more now. And you can see that in evidence, in actual, like, real-life vision on this show, because when Moxley came out, you brought it up, heat. It was, and when they came down and they caused the DQ, this crowd were not booing the finish. They were not booing the company for booking a DQ finish. They were booing the group for ruining the fun.
Absolutely. I mean, I could literally spend the entire podcast just talking about either the potential of this angle, the execution of this angle, because, I mean, it's not been something I've talked about yet. The beatdown of everybody was so awesome as well. Smashing Action Andretti out of midair.
Like, Marina Shafir is
getting her paycheck.
Oh,
my God.
Man, she was like choking dudes out. It was awesome.
Yeah, and additionally, one of the things that I have talked about in terms of the things that I've enjoyed the most in AEW, in wrestling and everything, but in AEW as of late, has been this Don Callis family storyline, for example, where I don't know where it's going, but I know that there are evenly spaced out big moments still to keep my interest latched onto it. Here, I don't know when or what exactly is going to happen with the Elite and the Young Bucks, but they've now planted a seed that something is going to happen.
Completely, because I then remembered like a couple of weeks ago, Moxley went up to Jack Perry and said, I don't care what people say, I think you're a good kid. And like, it was later on, I didn't even think about it, I was writing my edited review. I suddenly was like, oh yeah, they had a backstage interaction. Oh, that's interesting. And it was Jack was the one that kind of said to the Bucks and Okada, like, let's get out of here. Setting up the return of Kenny Omega, I was like, oh, maybe we're going to get a reunion of the proper Elite, of like Kenny and the Bucks getting back together, Perry maybe going over to the BCC. Like, there's a lot of avenues that you can go down here, and I just love the fact that the Elite are now part of this story.
Yeah, it's the most interested I've been in the Elite since the Darby and Sting match.
Yeah, I actually agree with that, because I loved the putting Okada in the group. I like putting Perry in the group, but yeah, I think you're right. Like, it's gone off the boil, and this feels like a very good response to this going off the boil. Also, I need Eddie Kingston back.
Oh my God.
I need Eddie back for this story.
It's the one thing that obviously you can't put at the feet of anybody involved. But if one thing was going to make this an absolute perfect 10 out of 10 angle, as if it wasn't already, it would have been Eddie Kingston doing a run-in, doing an interview, chasing off the car backstage, whatever you wanted to do. Eddie Kingston's music hitting in this sends that crowd into a frenzy like nothing else could have.
Because you can go either way with it as well. You can have Eddie B, the guy who is defending AEW, or the guy who maybe sees Moxley's way and be like, look, this is not the company that I want it to be either. I think Moxley's right. Or maybe you can have the argument of Eddie on Team AEW being like, he's right though. Like, I'm fighting on your side, but he has got a point. You do need to step up. Because I know there's been this thing, I saw this on Reddit, people like, why didn't anyone say to Renee, like, what's your husband up to? And I was like, that's because only one person can ask that question, and that one man is Eddie Kingston. I don't want anyone to ask that question to Renee unless it's Eddie Kingston.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about it to death. I just hope that the feeling that you get, the uneasy feeling of everybody on edge during the first hour of this show, I need that to persist throughout Dynamite.
Yep.
As long as Jon Moxley is on top.
When Cole left his interview. He was kind of looking over his shoulder, being like, I don't want to get jumped. Like, there's that on edge. Even at the end of this broadcast, and they were kind of putting over, it's Jay White and Paige are continuing their feud. Excalibur was still saying, like, it's a dangerous time for AEW. Jon Moxley and the Blackpool Combat Club are still doing what they're doing. So it's very, like, even though they are not there, they are Poochie. And, like, whenever they're not on screen, someone is asking where they are.
As long as we keep that energy, I think this is your next big AEW story.
Yeah, I thought this was so good. And I thought it capped off what was a great episode. And we have got a bunch of Ultra Chats in from you. Also, WrestleTalk.com/support will read out all of your chats before the end of the show. Kevin here said, Mox said AEW was the land of opportunity. Lol, great choice of words, John. Also, I get Adam Cole's reasons, because why would he team with a faction that doesn't even team with themselves? Everybody is in a multi-man match. He's never with them.
That's a very good point,
It's
honestly.
a very good point.
I also like they didn't involve Wardlow in that. That he's just... He doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. We'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, I thought that was
curious.
Curious is a good word. Yeah. I did think that when I was reading that out, I forgot the land of opportunities is what they used to call SmackDown.
Yeah,
that was the Shane and Danielson line. It's the land of opportunity, which Moxley was the forefront of. Anonymous here said, lads, hope your day is well. Loved this episode. Really interested to see if there really is someone behind the BCC, or it is just Mox being cryptic. Either way, I'm hooked. Kenny's return is going to feed families for generations. Love your guys' work. I wonder if we have been talking about a Howard Power, but there is no Howard Power.
At this point, I'm happier if there isn't.
I agree, because you said on last week's show, it needs to be someone who's at the same level as Moxley, or it's no one.
And right now, I do not know who could be.
No, it has to be him. And maybe his Howard Power is just the purpose.
Yes.
It's just his reasoning to do it. He's his own Howard Power. Noshua here said, hi guys, seeing the BCC run havoc was outstanding. Moxley being the antagonist of the promotion is going to be fascinating to see. Maybe the Elite made a deal with Blackpool Combat Club to get the belt off Bryan, but didn't foresee the monster that Moxley would become. Jam that jam.
Interesting. I'll tell you, the only other theory I think it was an Ultra Chat on last week's show, that the Howard Power was Brie. Send him home. Send him home. Want my husband back.
It was Birdie. Bacon Rash said, hi lads, long time, cost of living, back to work. I did have something to say though. What if before Regal left, he asked Nigel McGuinness to keep an eye on things in the Blackpool Combat Club? He saw what was happening with Bryan winning and wasn't happy with the face turn, so he worked with Moxley to get the Bryan match, and if he couldn't win, Mox would. Mox's job was to draw Darby into a match with him, so Nigel got Bryan first. Nigel and Mox, the new heads of the BCC, and being Brits, it was Nigel who brought in Pac. Jammy Jam Jam, I'm 40. I actually want to see Nigel on the AEW side. He was really interesting in the show because I loved his performance at the end of WrestleDream, where he was
100%.
like, this is too far. Like the number one Bryan hater on the planet was like, this is too far.
I think you sell it more with that being the reaction than him actually being in some way behind it.
Exactly. And then on this episode where he's like, I'm not getting involved. I don't agree with what they are doing. I am not getting involved. And when he was saying that, I was like, you're so going to have a match with Jon Moxley.
I need to see it.
Kevin here said, I wish AEW would stop falling into the blood and guts has to be in July because, well, this would have been a good thing to incorporate into that story. I like the BCC's invasion pushes mid-card acts to level up their game. Also, Shelty B is the man.
Ain't he just?
Well, if this lasts until July next year, which I wager it will do, probably like and beyond, then yeah. Like, we can still do blood and guts. I suppose a comparison you could make here is NWO. You know, this sort of invading force. We are going to take apart the very fabric of WCW. If that is the comparison that I'm going to use here, the NWO lasted for years and years and years as a faction. Arguably too long. But it was hot for a good 2+ years before it got cold.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way it's the first week of this proper new direction, so it's impossible to know how long it's all going to last. But I do tend to agree that this runs into the same problem that like NXT used to have, where they decided to do Imperium versus Undisputed Era. It's like, that would have been a good time to do one, but we just did one 2 months ago because that's when we do them.
in November, so we have to get the random assortment of baby faces to take on Cole and crew. James here said, howdy folks, the boss, Jon Moxley. He's only doing this out of the kindness of his heart. The story rocks. It'd be interesting if in a few months the good guys admitted that they were complacent. Wrestling is awesome. Love, peace, and understanding to all. I originally read that as love Pierce. Unconnected. I just really like Adam Pearce at the moment. Yep. Roller Coaster here said, hey guys, hard not to feel a little afraid of the new Blackpool Congo Club when even Okada is given the what the hell face. Truly great stuff. Do you guys think there's anything deeper to Mox being the only one to wear a black shirt? Have a great day.
Hadn't even noticed it.
Yeah, I noticed everyone else was like in the Bryan Danielson white tee. Like when Wheeler Yuta came in, I was like, you've done that on purpose. Like Claudio's always wearing a white tee. But, sometimes Mox is just dressed up in his Kim Possible cosplay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, then maybe there is a deeper meaning to it. Or maybe it's just wearing a black t-shirt that day.
Yeah, maybe everybody else showed up to the building in white and he went, I'm going to be different. I'm going to wear black.
Just Sonny, who's been a member for 37 months in a row, said Jon Moxley is the main antagonist of AEW, higher than a typical heel, higher than the Elite. It's genuinely Thanos, the effing ace. Like, there's so many things we haven't even talked about. No world title.
Yeah.
Because they put that world title into a duffel bag and they made it clear on commentary. Where's the world belt? Where's the world title? Instead, Pac's hitting people with the briefcase. Like, what's the briefcase? Is the title in there? Where's the belt, John?
All answers that I would assume we will get at some point.
That's exactly it. But it makes me go like, I need to know. I now want to know where the belt is. I'm not seeing it be like, ooh, they forgot to put the belt. I was like, no, what have they done with it? Why was the bag?
Why? Why is the big thing? Not where. Why? I need to know why. Give me an answer that is going to fuel my interest in all this.
Kuzu here said, kind of surprised the episode only has a 6.8 rating on Cage Match. I thought it was an excellent episode after the first hour. My only gripe is that the BCC angle should have either opened or closed the show to really set the tone for the foreseeable future. I get the argument of both, but like doing it at the top of the hour is like that's where you get sort of like a big spike in viewership. So it makes sense to me to put it there.
Yeah, I agree.
Andy has been a member for 13 months in a row, said BCC angle includes the trios, tag, TNT, and world divisions. Bryan Danielson died for this angle. Kenny's around the corner. 2024 ending on a massive high.
Boy, isn't it going to be just amazing when when you get your Avengers Assemble of just everyone being back from injury. We got a lot of that at WrestleDream with Adam Cole coming back, and MJF and Daniel Garcia are now back in the fold, and they weren't hurt, but obviously they were off TV. You get Kenny back, you get Ibushi back, you get Bandito back at some point.
Copeland.
Adam Copeland comes back at some point. It's gonna make my heart happy.
Nick here said, one of the things I loved most about the opening Blackpool Combat Club promo on Dynamite was the final shot, that of Yuta looking out, still looking despondent and conflicted. I still feel like he's going to be a focus as they build towards him standing up to the BCC eventually.
So glad you brought that up, because I had forgotten to mention it, but I was sat there in the office watching the show, and him being the final shot of this thing, I went, oh, that's such a good choice.
Yeah.
That's such a good production choice.
He's going to get, like we were talking about these young guys like Garcia, Hook, Yuta as well. He's right there. He's on the other side right now.
Yup. Listen, a lot of people have been talking about, the best matches in Rampage history and everything. I'll never forget Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta having one of my favorite AEW matches of all time.
It's incredible.
We're going to get it again at some point, and I would bet it's going to be better.
Colostobi here said, my two favorite theories are that TK had enough and told Mox just do what you have to do, and that Bryan told Yuta if he loses, he should join them and destroy them from the inside. Saw someone comparing the Bucks to corrupt politicians and BCC to the cartel.
It kind of reminds me of, like, there's some scene in Game of Thrones or whatever where they talk about, like, 3 people propose to you, like, something that you need to do. Who do you listen to? And you talk, and it's the person that actually has power is the person with the gun to your head. Not the king, not this person, not that person, not the EVPs. It's the people that will kill you if you disobey them. And you get a real great look at what power looks like. Because I love that you have, on one side, you're invading the elite thing, taking control of it, and it doesn't really work, because I don't like so much the idea of they are actually in charge and therefore telling you what to do, because I think that only goes so far. But this is just, we're in charge because try and tell us that we're not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great stuff.
Pierce My Heaven said, can we just appreciate that forearm Moxley escaped to Action Andretti when he did the leap and the flipping leap?
Yes, we can.
Holy hell.
Early contender for the best moments of AEW Dynamite Year 6.
Buff, scan this guy. Eddie here said, I don't think Thanos is done winning. Who do you think will be the next person John retires? And why should it be Chris Jericho? Lol, but seriously, I feel that things need to get worse before you can have Darby or Cassidy overtake Moxley. I completely agree. Like, you can't have your happy moment just yet.
Nope.
I think
Honestly,
you're right.
if this lasts until the Texas Stadium show, I wouldn't be totally surprised.
I think it has to, and I think it goes beyond that. Like I think we're in this for the long run. But yeah, I think we are not out of the dark days just yet. I think there's going to be a lot more baddies winning.
1000%.
Let's get into the rest of this show, because after we had the Moxley promo, Adam Cole, baby, opened up the show to ask who is ready for story time. He then quickly was like, Roddy of the Kingdom, I don't need you. Anyway, we talk about Max.
Ignore all that. Forget that ever happened. They're the firm. It never happened.
I said this on the WrestleDream review, and I said it to Game Edited review as well. There are some times when doing a drop storyline is the right thing to do. This promo here felt like the promo that Adam Cole was always going to do before the team accidentally got hot and sold a bunch of t-shirts and they had to have a babyface run together.
Yeah.
Like the whole angle was supposed to end with just Max turns on him and they go into a hot program into the summer over the world title. And it almost feels like we're just ignoring what happens between like All In and now, and we're just being like, yeah, and I'm a babyface, he's a heel, here's the promos we're doing.
Yeah.
I hate him, he hates me.
You know what? It's better for everyone.
I agree.
When everybody agrees that that's like the real low point of the last year of AEW that nobody wants to talk about or remember, if they're going to go out there and overtly tell you, forget it happened, here's what would have happened if none of that garbage happened, I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong to do it.
And I'm not saying that like dropping a storyline is a good thing. I'm not saying that AEW are like what a great creative mind Tony Khan is for dropping this storyline. But I do think it's the right thing to do, because I think it's trying to tie it all together is too messy. And it's a storyline that got messy through the fault of no one.
Yeah.
Like, it's Cole got injured. That sucks. That, you know, he was going to win the world title from MJF and would have gone into a very different direction. But he got hurt. We couldn't do that. But even before then, they were not supposed to be a long-running tag team. But then T-shirts did too well, so they had to stay as an act together. And that was not the original plan either. So we're now like 4 steps removed from original plans. Just like cut it off and just go back to the original plan.
You know, everybody was just like, those Ring of Honor tag titles were a bit of a step down from this match they had with FTR or whatever. It's because they were. It's because they were like, oh no, well, we can't end this team, so I guess we'll give them the other set of tag belts that we have.
Yeah.
Is that still good? No? Okay. And then everything you just said happened. So I'm not upset that they've decided to do this. I'm a little surprised that, you know, they've just hit resume on all of this, because we were saying it's done with.
Done.
MJF's return at Double or Nothing was the end of the story, and that's not a problem either. Let's just go in a different direction, pretend it's over. It's not. And now we're going to get this, and it is interesting because I was very much into the Adam Cole MJF storyline while it was good, you know.
Up until All In.
Up till All In, I was invested.
I'd actually say up until the injury, I think, is when it worked. Is the injury is literally the it's a fall off a cliff there.
Yeah, or a fall off a stage, I suppose. But I will be interested, because this was, I guess, sort of like your run of the mill MJF, you're a piece of garbage promo. It was well delivered and everything, but it is one I have heard before, and I will be interested to see what the direction of this is going to be long term, and what storyline directions they want to take with this. I think there's a lot of potential, obviously, because it was exactly what we said with the Will and MJF thing, that it was like, okay, this is still like a bit run-of-the-mill until they cut the promo where MJF said that you stole them from me, and then we see the insecurity in MJF, which is when MJF is at his best. I think we will most likely see the same thing here, that eventually you will get the moment where it shows how hurt MJF was by being turned on.
Exactly.
And it's just, how we get to there, how long that takes, and what we do in between that will kind of dictate the overall quality of this. But I'm confident that when we get there, all will be well.
I agree. Like, I think it was a good promo. It's unfortunately, I think they can get the feud back to a hot point, but it is not going to feel like the hot program that it should have done last summer.
Yeah.
But I think that they can generate some good heat for this.
It also, to me, helps that both of these guys, when their music hits, I'm interested.
Yes, because when Max's music played, I was like, oh, cool, I want to see him come out. And then
Yeah.
he didn't. He just appeared on the screen to kind of retort program. And you're right, it was the typical, like, you're a piece of human garbage. I trusted you. And then I realized that I should never trust anyone again. So you have made me who I am. And Adam Cole was like, you can run, but you can't hide. Standard stuff. But yeah, when MJF's music hit, I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to see them interact.
It's how I felt, for the month between All Out and WrestleDream, where it was just like, I just feel like we're missing a few main characters on this show. A lot of the big shows were still good, but we were missing some big characters.
Yeah, agreed.
And now you've got another feud where two of them are facing each other again. And that's just going to, again, lift the quality of the whole show and make it all feel more important.
And you look up and down this show, and that's like throughout, because you've got the stuff that's going on with Swerve and the Hurt Syndicate. You've got what's going on with Will and the Don Callis family. There are a lot of like main character storylines right now.
I said this to Sullivan very recently, where my barometer for how much I am enjoying a show, a series, movie, whatever, is when you cut to a different plot and I'm still interested.
Yeah.
If you cut to something, a Jericho match, for example, if you cut to that and I go, oh, okay, I'll get through this for the next thing. If there are more of those feelings than not, I'm probably not enjoying the show very much. Yeah. But now you've got the Hurt Business stuff with Swerve. You've got Adam Cole and MJF. You've got the Don Callis family. You've got the BCC. There are loads and loads and loads of threads here that I am all interested in.
Page.
Hangman Page is involved.
Yeah.
Daniel Garcia, Orange Cassidy, and the like. Private Party I'm really invested in at the moment. Queen Aminata's doing really well. There are loads of different threads here, so that if you cut to the next one and I'm still invested, I think that kind of carries throughout all of Dynamite, especially this week.
Renee interviewed Jericho following WrestleDream, who said that Mark cheated to win, to retain his title, so he wants a rematch so he can become a 2-time champion. Like Jay was. And I'm like, oh, I still don't think we need to be doing this. And then Mark had a return promo where he said, we're going to have the rematch next week, and it'll be Ladder War. And that was set up for this week. It'll be FTR taking on Big Bill and Brian Keith. Fun little match. FTR hit the Shadow Machine on Brian Keith for the win. My favorite moment of this was when they tried to do it on Big Bill, and he just punched his way out of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big reversal. He just went, bop. I was like, no, I'm not taking this move.
He is big, isn't he?
He was big. It was like the most Big Bill.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this was fun. Doing Ladder War next week. I think I'm more excited the fact they announced a match for next week than I am seeing Jericho versus Mark again. Yeah. Having said that, I really liked that match at WrestleDream.
Yeah, it was all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the thing. Like, some of the time the matches are still good, but the caring is
that's the problem.
Difficult.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that I would be booking 50-something-year-old Jericho in a ladder match at this stage, but I could be surprised.
Yeah.
I still don't want to see him win the title, that's for sure.
I don't want to see him win the belt.
Because I love Mark Briscoe. I think he's a highlight of all of pro wrestling. He's a wonderful individual, and I want to see him succeed and continue on, do other things that don't involve Chris Jericho.
Because I said to you on the prediction show we did for WrestleDream that I could see Jericho winning the belt, doing his 9-time world champion gimmick, and then you do Jericho and Samoa Joe as the final battle match. I am now so far away from wanting that to happen. I actually didn't want it to happen when I gave that prediction. I'm really far away from wanting it now because what I want to see is Samoa Joe come back and part of this Blackpool Combat Club storyline. Right? I want to see Joe versus Moxley. That's a match I really want to see.
Absolutely.
After the match, throughout the match, you saw LFI watching on from backstage. The Outrunners came out afterwards to do their sort of handshake gimmick and stuff.
This was silly.
It
all is, but
it was a collision. Waiting. It was collision on Dynamite.
It felt like this would have been the segment after they cut to commercial.
Yeah.
Just like, here's the thing for the live crowd. I was expecting like FTR to turn on them and turn heel or something, which I wouldn't have been booking beforehand, but I was waiting for the point of this. They just came out and did their 80s pose down,
And
which
they did it.
they got a pop, so
Yeah.
I can't say it was a negative, but a strange little segment.
Sets up a match for Collision because they're doing LFI versus the Outrunners on Collision this coming weekend. We had Renee interviewing the Acclaimed, and MVP walked up to say, "You also need to get serious," and he handed them business cards as Daddy Ass had left.
Cool.
Yeah.
If this is the split and Anthony Bowens goes with them, 100% on board. You notice a theme with a lot of my pitches for the Acclaimed, and then it always includes break up and push Bowens.
We had, for the TBS Championship, Queen Aminata taking on Mercedes Moné. This got set up at WrestleDream. Good match, really good match.
Really good match.
This is the second time in probably as many months where I've come out of it being like, man, Queen Aminata looked great coming out of that loss.
It's what everybody would say week in and week out on Collision, but Collision only mattered, some of the time to some of the people. So if you weren't watching it, you weren't getting to see how good a lot of the women's wrestlers were on that show, namely Trish Adora and Queen Aminata. And now getting to see Queen Aminata being a bit more of a promoted act on Dynamite, I think shows a great deal of confidence that the company has in her. She's yet to really have those big wins and all of that, but being a focused participant in this whole circus we got going on is a big step up, because a great wrestler, capable of great matches.
Moné gave her so much in this match. Well, this felt like a match where Mercedes Moné had one goal in mind, and that was to make Queen Aminata look as great as she could do. Not that Queen Aminata needs their help because she's awesome, but Moné gave a lot of the ring to Queen Aminata in this. She tapped her out eventually with the statement maker, but yeah, this is one of those matches where you got over in defeat.
It was a little detail that I really appreciated about this, and it was, I don't even know if it was intentional or whatever, but I find a lot of the time Mercedes Moné's backstabber into the statement maker, while a cool transition, often makes the backstabber look, a little underwhelming, because it is just like, and we're going to neatly do a roll through and flip and then the submission. Here, she just did a backstabber, and it looked like it killed her.
Yeah.
It looked like it killed Queen Aminata. She didn't do the flip over. She just took it, crumpled, and then they rolled over and put her in the submission tap out. I think that is a much more effective use of the move and a much more effective sell job from Queen Aminata. Thumbs up all the way for this. Loved it.
We then got the very lengthy Elite stuff, and that is the Conglomeration match and the post-match with Daniel Garcia and Private Party. But man, bunch of guys getting a lot of TV time here and getting over within that TV time. And I said it earlier, but that backstage segment where Garcia is mouthing off at the Elite, I thought was it's one of my favorite things on this episode, where I had a lot of favorite things.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to see him versus Jack Perry.
100%. We were talking about him being, probably the most likely person to dethrone Jack Perry as TNT champion. Now I'm like, I need to see it.
Yeah.
Not just from I really want to see Daniel Garcia do well, but now as a character on this show, I want to see this man kick their ass and take their titles, because, they deserve it. They've got it coming.
Yeah. We also had them cutting a promo on Kenny. Got to be coming back at some point soon. We then had a video package for Swerve at WrestleDream with MVP, and then we got Lio Rush versus Shelton Benjamin.
You want to talk about favorite things on a very good show?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
All right.
Oh my god.
This match ruled.
This match was so excellent.
This match had two goals in mind, and I actually really had one goal, but I want to give Lio Rush his flowers, because this made Lio Rush look great. This was a really good showcase for Lio Rush. But this whole match was designed for you at the end of it to say, man, that man wasted his time in WWE for so long. Why weren't they using him like this?
I was so pissed off at the end. I'm this guy is so awesome. How dare they?
That's exactly what this match was designed to do, and it did it really, really well, because Shelton Benjamin at the end of this, I was like, you don't need Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
You've got him already, and he's called Shelton Benjamin.
I had the same thought, because, I'm kind of going into this Hurt Syndicate thing and thinking about what the hierarchy is going to end up being, who's taking the pins for the group. Now, no one should be. Because I was thinking ahead of time, maybe you do Swerve and Shelton on the WrestleDream show. And like, maybe that's a little early to beat Shelton, whatever. No! Screw that! Shelton shouldn't be losing ever! Because he's awesome. He probably will at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
He's facing Swerve in a couple of weeks. But this match was so excellent. He fits this company like a glove. And everybody knew that he would because he's excellent. And everybody wants to give him the flowers that he's always deserved. Everyone knows that Shelton Benjamin is excellent, has been excellent. But at 49 years old, he goes in there and has one of my favorite TV matches of the year. I can't speak enough praise for this match and both of their performances. But I want to especially highlight that I find the greats really find it maybe not easy, but can do it successfully, where Shelton Benjamin is a large man, you know, but essentially in WWE during his heyday was undersized when compared to the other people he went through OVW with, your Brock Lesnar's, your John Cena's, your Batistas and such. So he was often looked at as like, you know, the small athletic guy.
You're the tag guy.
He went into this match and he wrestled as a giant.
Yeah, he sure did. This was like strength versus speed.
I've never seen a better giant. This is the best giant performance I've ever seen. And it's with a guy like Shelton Benjamin, who's like 6'4" and 230 or so. Incredible stuff. Just catching this quick little agile Leo Rush, not with a big move, this and that, but just grabbing him by the throat or hitting him with a kick or whatever the case.
That super kick. It damn near took his head off.
A masterpiece of a performance.
Also, like those release German suplexes were awesome. Like I knew you were going to enjoy the show because Queen Armanada did a fall away slam.
Yep,
but,
5-star match.
But when Shelton Benjamin was doing those release German suplex, I was like, dude, you do not need Bobby on this team now. Also, I am manifesting this now. I need Shelton Benjamin in the C2.
Yes.
I want him in the C2
with a very strong performance in the C2 as well.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, in contention for the final.
I don't need him winning it, but I maybe give him the Claudio run.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was so great here. This match ruled.
I love this match, and I want to make sure everybody knows, as much as we're saying, oh my God, with this performance, you don't even need Bobby Lashley. They're going to add Bobby Lashley, and this act is going to be better.
Yeah.
It's going to be even better.
Yeah. It is.
You want another highlight to get super excited about on this show? This little trio is going to be some of the best TV we've got of a hot TV show.
I was so excited when Shelton Benjamin came and he was flanked by MVP, and it was in that moment I was like, I'm really into this act. And I loved the angle they did at WrestleDream. Man, I'm so stoked for it, and I'm really, really excited for their match in 2 weeks' time.
I can't wait. I'm sure it's going to be excellent. I really like that the first line of Shelton Benjamin's song is Ain't No Stopping Me Now.
Yeah.
And his new nickname, The Standard of Excellence. That is pretty fitting.
Also, MVP is like looking to recruit people. He gave his business card to Leo Rush. Him being an addition to the group, I think is a really good. I think he'd be excellent within that group. Also, it reunites Leo Rush and Bobby Lashley again.
Oh yeah, I hadn't considered that.
Excalibur, they had this video that they wanted to air, which was Darby Allin has done a thing with Tony Hawk, and they've got a photo together, and you can go and buy it, and the proceeds of that go towards a charity. But Darby Allin's involved in a really emotional storyline right now, so Excalibur had to be like, we haven't heard from Darby Allin, but prior to WrestleDream, he hung out with Tony Hawk.
It's really cool, that.
It was cool. You know, I'm a 90s kid, so I was like, yes, Tony Hawk.
I saw this and I went, this is a segment for Luke.
He's one of my heroes. I've got a Tony Hawk 3 tattoo. Like, he is one of my heroes. Renee spoke with Swerve Strickland, who accepted Shelton Benjamin's challenge. So that's the match that's happening in 2 weeks' time. We then had Don Callis doing a press conference, essentially to make fun of the press conference that happened at WrestleDream, where a bunch of journalists went ill-prepared. And he got great heat for all of this. I love this, by the way. So Tony Schiavone's in the ring to introduce Don Callis. Don Callis comes out and the crowd goes, boo. And Nigel McGuinness goes, the San Jose crowd does not like Tony Schiavone.
Nigel was having a good night.
It was great.
What a night to have one of your best. But there was a bit during one of the picture-in-picture things where they were joking about having material written down or something like that. And Nigel said, like, Tony, you should think about doing that. Then you might have something funny to say ever. And there's like a beat. He's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. That's too far.
But Don's central point here was like, I wanted to hold a press conference, but I realized there's no good journalist within the wrestling world, so I'm just going to answer the questions for you. He introduced that Lance Archer and Brian Cage are his new tag team because now he's got a taste for the tag gold and he wants it.
Remember that tag team last year that everybody really liked with Big Bill and Brian Cage? That everyone thought they should just stick together? Well, here it is again, but with a different big guy.
And he brings out Fletcher and Takeshita, who looks great with that belt, and announced that Takeshita is going to be defending that belt all over the world. In fact, he's doing it this weekend.
He is.
With Maple Leaf.
Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. He is defending that title against Josh Alexander. And there are not very many shows these days where I feel really envious of all the people that are back home in Southern Ontario. I wish I could be around to see this show.
I may buy this.
Yeah?
I may buy it because it's on Fight. So I may buy it. I'm off work on Monday. So I may have that as my little treat, is that I'm going to watch both of the Maple Leaf shows. Like, even watching Jinder versus Bully Ray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a fast forward button. That main event, though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the first night is Takeshita Bailey, right?
I believe so. I know Mike Bailey, I think, is wrestling ELP on these shows as well.
Because I think that is the first night, because I think ELP's in a trios match. Would like be the party opener. I'm just really excited. I just think like I'm really into their presentation. I'm pretty stoked for this Maple Leaf thing.
As am I. It's been a while since we had a real nice big hot Canadian indie, other than Impact for a time.
Yeah,
I suppose.
Say, yeah. It was like when for a period of time we acted like TNA was our local indie because they were more over here than they were in America. So Takeshita, they say that he's going to defend the belt around the world. And Callis then said, it's been an emotional week for Carl Fletcher, so he's only got a brief few words that he would like to say. And Carl got this promo saying that everyone wants to know that why he turned on Will. He said everyone wants to talk about Will Ospreay, though. That's the problem. The family are having the great week. They're having a great night, but everyone just wants to talk about Will. So you want to know my reasons? Tough luck. I ain't giving them to you.
I tell you, when I watched WrestleDream, there was one moment that got me out of my chair, and it was Kyle Fletcher turning on Will. Proper, like, no! Yeah. Don't do it, Kyle!
I had the same thing genuinely. I was like, oh no! Oh, I didn't see it coming. Like, a lot of people made fun of me being like, well, it was so telegraphed. And I was like, was it? Maybe I'm just dumb. And I was just like, oh no, he's going to tag with Will Ospreay, United Empire.
I was sat here week after week after week going like, well, there's all these steps that you're going to have, and it's really good story. And it is, but I was not anticipating this Kyle Fletcher heel turn. And maybe in the long run, it's going to be better off for him because he can be a bit more of a focused singles guy here as opposed to eventually what I would imagine would have been a tag guy as part of the United Empire with Mark Davis and whatnot. But man, I did not see it coming.
It's going to lead to a very good Will Ospreay rematch, though.
It sure is. And this lineup, this murder's row of heel faction members here, look pretty good.
Pretty good looking team right there.
Pretty good.
I think we're going to have a very good Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher rematch that Fletcher is going over in. Renee backstage speaks with Mariah May, who also buried the press conference at WrestleDream, and then just goes like, why is no one stepping up to me? Like, why is no one coming for this belt? Like, because it's not been a focus since I won it at All In. Just about like, Thunder Rosa's not around, Tony Storm's not around. I'm still waiting for Mina Shirakawa. I still haven't had my title celebration. I am begging for someone to come and step up to me. Anna Jay did step up to her. She accidentally slapped Christopher Daniels and all of this. They're having a world title eliminator at Battle of the Belts, which it airs at some point. Could be this weekend, could be in 2 weeks' time. I have absolutely no idea.
It's Battle of the Belts.
It's Battle of the Belts. Like, it is what it is. It's not getting renewed. So good job establishing Anna Jay. They just gave her the win on the WrestleDream pre-show, so there's a nice little progression of that. I believe that Mariah May and Thunder Rosa had a bit of a tete-a-tete on Twitter because she called her out by name. Thunder Rosa was over in the UK this week.
winning the Riot Cabaret Women's World Title.
She sure did. Which Mariah May was just like, yeah, she's over winning titles in the UK. I was like, that's Riot Cabaret.
That's our indie.
That's our indie. She's won our world title. She beat Nina Samuels. So yeah, so I think that's cool. I'd like to see Mariah May versus Thunder Rosa. I think that's actually a really good established act for May to feud with.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
They then put over that Toni Storm is the PWI #1. So congratulations to Toni Storm. Then we had Renee interviewing Ricochet, who said that he was not pinned and he challenges anyone to show up at Collision and face him. I believe it's going to be AR Fox.
AR Fox answered the call on social media afterwards.
And then the last thing we had with the Blackpool Combat Club was them continually killing more of the roster members. And they beat up Top Flight and Dark Order backstage. And then once they were done with that, they just walked and they jumped into the back of a pickup truck and they drove off. And John Silver chased after them.
I never knew Pete was so fast.
And then, from out of nowhere, Evil Uno cut this awesome promo.
Amazing
This
promo.
was one of the best promos of the night. On a night filled with incredible promos, Evil Uno was great.
Really enjoyed this. And, I mean, it's not been a secret that the Dark Order's been a bit directionless for, the last few years, really. But, man, I don't know if they're going to be involved in this more than fodder for the first few weeks. But with performances like this, it's a sure good way to keep yourself getting hot and getting booked and all of this.
Yeah, I thought this was a great promo from Uno, and I really liked it. And they set up, it's another trios match. I think it's on Collision, right? It's BCC versus... Is it versus the Dark Order? Or is it versus?
I think it's Top Flight.
It's Top Flight. Yeah, I think it's Top Flight. But that's kind of the great thing of it. It's there's so many matches you can build out of this. So yeah, really, really great. And then our main event was Jay White versus Christian Cage. They had a fun little bit with Juice and Colton getting ejected from ringside because Nick Wayne set up a trap for them, which they fell into. But they dragged Nick Wayne to the back, and Mother Wayne followed them. So I was enjoying this. These two work together really well. The problem was that the finish got a little bit wonky in that Kip Sabian was to cause a distraction and Hangman Page would then do the buckshot lariats. But I think they came down early.
Mm-hmm. Sure felt like that.
It felt early because Kip got up at one point and then they cut to the crowd but didn't cut to it long enough to show that Page was coming through the crowd. And then it was like, who was that? And then they just showed him laying down and I was like, oh, I think he's hiding. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, they came down early. Because then later on, Kip gets back up onto the apron to cause distraction, and then they went to the finish. So I think there was a little bit of miscommunication, a little bit of mistimed. So that is, I would say, the only down point on this show was that they mistimed the finish of this match. But otherwise, I thought the match was very good. And I liked the finish of Page hitting the buckshot lariat and Christian pinning him off the back of that. Not even with his own move. Mm-hmm. Pinning him off of Page's move. And then Page is laying there just looking up. Exactly the way that Christian did when Christian interfered and helped him advance in the Owen Hart tournament.
It was a nice little nod.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do think this main event was, I guess, my least favorite thing on the show.
Yeah. I'd say so.
And it's largely just because, they messed the thing up. And I don't know how many times I'm going to need to say it, but I'm just not buying Kip Sabian as a thing in a main event match.
Yeah.
It feels like it really sticks out to me, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's kind of mid-cardifying the patriarchy, which is weird because they have the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Mm-hmm. I think mid-cardifying it is even putting it too lightly.
Maybe.
Listen, I know it was a few years ago and everything, but they did that whole box on the head deal with Kip Sabian forever, and then it culminated with a 2-star Pac match.
Yeah.
You have a 2-star match with Pac? That does not bode well for my interest in you going forward. Now, it's been a while. But I don't think Kip Sabian and his arc with all of this is what's getting people interested in whatever the patriarchy's going to do next.
I've got a little...
I forget about it after it happens every week.
I've got a little bit of Fireworks Factory with Kip Sabian.
Yeah.
And this storyline. I'm waiting I need them to get there. We've been doing this for weeks now.
You could argue years. Talk about a day one. Yeah. First match on the pre-show at Double or Nothing 2019. And we're still here. And I think he was better off then.
But that was the episode. I thought this was an awesome awesome episode of Dynamite.
Easy 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, a quality show, a really exciting show. Genuinely felt like there was a report from Fightful Select that came off the back of Jimmy Jacobs leaving, and like I'm not going to be those people that have been online being like, "Oh, Jimmy Jacobs was the reason why creative's been bad for you now," because it's not. Like, buck stops with Tony Khan. He is the guy that signs off on all the ideas. I mean, even if you go by some reports, Jimmy Jacobs actually wasn't even doing that many creative pitches. He was just more Tony's right-hand man. But within all of this, they kind of looked at it as be like, this is our creative reset point. And this really has felt like WrestleDream in here felt like creative reset points.
Very much so. You know, and it's funny because I listened to Ibu, of Wrestle Purists, Spaces this past week, where he talked extensively about this. And he made it clear, it's like, listen, I think this is positive change for them, but I don't want them to go out, put on one great Dynamite and have everyone go, it's fixed.
We're so back.
That being said, my God, did they pick a friggin' week here to go out there and then have one of the most creatively interesting Dynamites they've had in a very long time.
This is an awesome episode. Big thank you so much for watching. Big thank you to our wonderful pledge hammers over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. You can share my screen if you'd like to.
Sure.
To do the shout outs and stuff. We've only got one iPad between us because the No Rolls Bard's on tour at the moment and they've taken it to do the merch stuff. Thieves. Alex, one of our sales guys, came up to me and was like, can I use one of the iPads? I was like, well, you are going to really hurt us doing the podcast because we need 2 of these things.
Yes.
And he was like, can you do it without them? And I was like, I don't know. That's up to you, bud.
Well, we're about to find out.
Head on over to patreon.com because we have got some amazing content going up at the moment. Bonus content, in fact, including next week, Ollie and I will be recording our next episode of Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle in TNA with a review of Final Resolution 2007, which features Bob Backlund in the finals of the Paparazzi Championship Series, and it is madness. It is a show that also features... Okay, I know we're running long, so I'm gonna do this as briefly as I possibly can. It is the end of the VKM angle, where they challenged Michael Higginbottom to show up at the Alamo, and he did not show up at the Alamo for a fight.
I'm shocked.
And so they call a victory because Triple H gets hurt at New Year's Revolution 07, and then Christy Hemme comes out and cuts a promo asking why no one is talking about China in all of this DX reunion stuff. Why is she being ignored? Why are women always ignored in pro wrestling history? Why does TNA have no women's wrestling on this show? Why is no one making a bigger deal out of the fact that Lita was just run out of WWE in a horrible angle for her retirement? Why are we getting no respect around here? And the crowd boo her.
Oh, the mid-2000s.
How to boo her. So it's like the most heat anyone gets on the whole show is Christy Hemme being like, I think women should have more matches. And they go, boo! And then Billy Gunn gets the microphone and said, listen here, you little slut.
Boy, howdy.
I could not believe
This is why I say that TNA was never good.
And it was like, I was dying laughter. It's so funny.
Horrible.
Anyway, if you are one of our wonderful pledge hammers at a certain level, you get your name read out on the show like these fine folk. Murderous James Murtaugh.
Yeah. WrestleTalk's personal problem solver, Jamie Donovan. Yeah.
Top Flight, Jared Martin.
Yeah. Spoke in class today, Jeremy Smith. Yeah.
John Jenkinson, son of Jenka.
Yeah. The heir to the throne, Kate Ayers. Yeah.
Manipulating Manny Umaria.
Yeah. The needs of the... It's a long one. The needs of the Manny Connish outweigh the needs of the few. Yeah.
The real boss, Matt Robinson.
Yeah. Max Kurt Walliner Wallen. Yeah.
Michael Mark for Life Plowman.
Yeah. And he stole Sue's van, Mr. E. Yeah.
And that is your Hall of Fame class for the 17th of October, 2024. Let's get into the rest of your remaining Ultra chats. And Eddie here said, oh no, we did that one. Space Viking here said, yesterday news kind of gave substance to my opinion that TK didn't want to relinquish control in kayfabe for whatever reason. This new angle is basically the elite angle, but with more anarchy. I hope story prevails over ego because Mox is cooking with grease. I should also, you know, with that Tony Khan story, it did come from Wade Keller. And so it's not like I think there's probably some truth to it. But when I saw it came from Keller, I was like, it's a pinch of salt one for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the thing. They are both heel takeover angles in a sense. But the motivation behind it is entirely different.
Yeah.
And therefore makes me feel entirely different from one angle to another.
I feel it was more, I'd imagine there is definitely some ego problems within that first Elite storyline they did. I think more of the problems came from they were just booking it week to week and there was clearly no plan for it. Mm-hmm. I think that was more of a problem. The egos probably were there, but I think the lack of planning felt a little bit like the prequel trilogy of Star Wars. Every time you watch one of those movies, it's like, oh, you're just ignoring what you did in the previous one, huh? Mm-hmm. Kevin here said, when you talked about Renee, I had flashbacks to John's 2018 heel turn on Seth and Graves and Corey asking every single week to Renee, what happened to Dean? So I don't think I need this on AEW unless it's Eddie Kingston.
Well, you say that, but they also did this during the Hangman and Moxley feud in AEW, and it was really great there too. Like, I do think you need the right person doing it, you know, but like, I don't necessarily think Renee would be going to work super jazzed and like as energetic as she normally would be. And I feel like it's a bit of a tonal inconsistency throughout the show when you have established that like they are a married couple.
You've said it on TV.
Yeah, it's not just like behind the scenes, whatever. Yeah, no, it's a part of the show in a way. So maybe the right person will bring it up, but we'll see.
Mr. Kraz here said, if you're going to use your NWO as a parallel, is Hangman early Sting, the wild card with no side that both sides want? Ali may want him for past relations. BCC see his rage as passion.
It'll be interesting. I don't know how he...
No idea.
Falls in all
There's
this.
like so many people I'm like, I can see where you fall into this story, or I can theorize. Paige, I have no idea. But that's actually the beauty of Hangman Page.
Yeah.
Elwick here said, so during the build-up for Perry versus Danielson, Mox returned and cut that promo on how Jack Perry was a good kid despite what everyone said. Do you think that he's going to leave the Elite to join the BCC? I think there's every chance.
I think there is every chance. And what I really enjoy about all of this is the parallels you can sort of draw to the Blackpool Combat Club when they started, you know, because it started off really hot, and Danielson's going out there and saying, we could recruit Wheeler Yuta, we could recruit Daniel Garcia,
Lee Moriarty,
all these different people. I think there is a really fun parallel to be drawn here where the message is almost the same, but the tactics used are completely different. And now you don't have people like, ooh, should I join them or whatever. It's like, no, now we have to stop them. And if it yields the same results, that's going to be a success in their minds. Yeah, it's really fun.
Hannah Allen here said, hello, lovelies. Adam Cole, baby. This wasn't the road I saw for the feud. I get it. There was an injury and time apart. Still, I love Cole. I love MJF. They got hurt. They needed time off. This just felt weird. Cole should be ultra heel, please. But certainly not the happy to be back babyface. Massive fan of Cole of MJF. Also fan of Mariah May, Tony Storm, DMD, Willow, Rosa, Anna Jay, Nyla, Riho, Ford, Aminata, Sky Blue, Athena, Starks, Uno's a women's division. So much more. Lots of love.
It's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
You know, it's a good roster.
Mr. Kraz here said, these new stories are cool so far, but I feel a forgotten strength is when they pepper in comedy. I'd really like to see down the line MJF hiding in a trash can and Cole enraged looking for him muttering, I guess he can hide. Rick and Morty style.
You can run, but you can't hide, bitch. Listen, this is not the time for comedy.
It's not. We're sad, everyone.
Yes. There's no, you don't need Empire Strikes Back to end with a joke. And that's part, honestly, like, I do think there's a real something to it, not just narratively, but actually, like, yeah, there hasn't been a sense of urgency with really anyone on this show except Swerve dating back for the last year. He's really been the only guy who's gone, no, me And now,
Yeah.
I want the entire show to feel like that. Like it kind of did in 2019, where people were talking about, like, I've waited my whole career for this shot and blah, blah, blah. And I think we're going to get it.
Real Double J here said, everyone talking about Infinity War, but AEW feels like a multiverse building towards a culmination we last saw in TK's favorite superhero movie, Space Jam 2. If there's a dancing Pennywise in our Fright Night Dynamite, you know I'm right.
Hey, if it is, I'll come right back to this chat and give you your flowers.
Zeref has been a member for 38 months in a row, said the crowd ruled this week. My friends and I were dying with Hangman hiding by the side of the ring. He's a sneaky, crazy little guy. Great show.
Indeed.
Liam Leonard, who's been a member for 37 months in a row, hello Double L, said, this show was such a pickup and finally have a reason to watch the BCC takeover. Hope you two are well, whirly-peed squad.
Always. Gang, gang.
Cameron P1 said, another chat to get the conversation going. Who do you think will be the first Grand Slam champion in AEW? I thought about it the other day and I couldn't really come up with any names. Will is a good shout, though.
Yeah, because, well, there's too many belts now.
Yeah.
If you get rid of the Continental Belt, which I think is a possibility at this point, if Takeshita wins the C2 and just unifies those belts and like, listen, the international title can be up for grabs in the end of the C2 instead.
Yeah, you get a shot at the international champion.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. That being said, if you were to just get rid of the Continental title and you've just got those main four, or I guess main three belts, the world title, the TNT title, and the international title to play with, it's tough. You might be looking at someone like Will that kind of makes sense. I think Kenny could end up being a decent shout.
Kenny's the one for me because he's already like partway there.
Yeah. Otherwise, like, you're looking at MJF going after the TNT title, or I guess Mox eventually going after the TNT title. I guess of the two, MJF is more likely than that.
Mox won tag gold.
Oh, yeah, I guess there is that. You got to factor tag gold in. I guess Kenny is the most likely then.
Yeah, because he's already done the tag bit. He's done the tag title, he's done the world title. If he's going into a program with Jack Perry as well, like that kind of sets him up to be, you know, kind of the guy to win the first, that mid card, and then you can say he's a Grand Slam champion.
Yeah, I like that. Kenny's the answer.
Audio Flesh here said, AEW's factions for the most part all look great. Weird to say now, but I hope we see Hangman in the Bang Bang Gang eventually against the Elite. Longtime supporter, I have heart surgery on the 28th. WrestleTalk brings me so much joy every morning. Thank you for all you do. Well, best of luck to you.
Indeed, best of luck.
Absolutely. Our thoughts will be with you, man.
I do love that AEW's factions are a real positive aspect of all of this.
Yeah. Bacon Rasher here said, P.S. I loved the Page Cage callback reference on the Raw review Tuesday. Still watch as much as I can, and Patreon now mainly for Monday Night Raw, Luke. Do the tag title matches, please. Love you all at WrestleTalk. Kiss.
Thank you very much.
Love you too. I mean, it's a bit late for that advice now. We filmed that months ago. James Powerpackers 90, who's using his mod chat to say, Tempest, love the shirt. Go Pack, go. Not as in the wrestler.
No, not PAC. The Pack. Green Bay. Let's go.
Let's beat the Stroods. Also, love this Dynamite. Even okay with the MJF Cole stuff. I mean, it makes as much sense as Cody giving Rock his Mania spot. Wrestling is perfect. Jam that jam, friendos. That's a really, I mean, it's very different in terms of like main events and, you know, over here. But that was a storyline where they were just like, yeah, we're just ignoring that Rock thing.
Yeah.
We're just going to pretend that episode of SmackDown never happened. And it was all the better for it.
100%.
Matt here said, I get the hot and cold argument, but I do think over the last 2 years there's been more misses than hits. Some of it was out of their control, other factors won't, and it can take time to earn that trust back. The story has potential and it makes me care. I think they can get hot again, it just takes time. I think why WWE has been so hot over the last 2 years is in a boom period is because everything went right in 2022. The success of the Bloodline, Cody jumping over, and Trips taking over creative in 2022. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. 2021 was AEW's best period where they were hot. Unfortunately, then WWE got good in 2022 onwards. They stopped being the cool alternative, and while everything went right for WWE in 2022, everything went wrong for AEW. Losing Cody, Brawl Out, and the creative, I think there's probably more of that to come. But to address what you're saying there, Matt, like as per usual, I don't think anyone would disagree with you within that. But yeah, there's always going to be that argument. You can't have two hot companies. Like,
certainly feels that way.
Like if one of them is hot, the other one has to be cold. And yeah, it's like AEW has been cold over the last 2 years, and when you are cold, you can do nothing right. When you are hot, you can do nothing wrong. And WWE at the moment is a company that can do no wrong. Even when shows aren't like particularly great, there's enough hot stuff on there that makes you think like, oh, there's still a really hot company right now. But AEW have been struggling to get to that. Maybe this Blackpool Combat Club will be the thing that reignites some hotness for it, but that is very much remains to be seen. I think that might actually be it from Matt.
There was no full stop at the
There
end.
was just no full stop out of it.
There was more to come.
But yeah, like I don't think AEW getting cold is because WWE got hot.
I think it's an incredible timing coincidence.
I think it's just a complete timing coincidence that like WWE's ascent of getting hot came at the exact same time that Brawl Out happened.
Wild,
It's
isn't it?
wild. But I think that had Punk stayed and Brawl Out not happened, that would have been a very different landscape. And maybe AEW would have still gone cold because they were kind of showing those signs already because Collision was struggling to sell tickets, even with Punk headlining those shows.
Does Collision even happen without Brawl Out, though? When
Yeah.
they have to make a separate boat for CM Punk over there to just exist.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, like if Punk doesn't jump into that crowd and break his foot, who knows what the last 2.5 years look like for AEW.
But yeah, I don't think WWE getting hot and AEW getting cold are like, it's because one happened to the other one happened. It's just, they just happen to happen at the same time.
Yeah.
But that is it for this episode of the show. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do press subscribe. Do give us a little thumbs up. And if you have made it this far, leave a comment down below. I'm going to close the poll, find out what everyone thought of this show. I'll be honest, that is lower than I was expecting. 84% thumbs up, 12% thumbs in the middle.
Who are you, 12%? What could have changed your minds?
Yeah, I'm surprised that I really thought that thumbs up was going to be way higher.
Yeah.
Not even like way higher, but certainly in the 90s.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
I mean, to each their own, but what a show, though.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I thought it was an awesome show. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with a review of Monday Night Raw. Go and check out my review of Dynamite in about 5 minutes over on the WrestleTalk Podcast channel. And tomorrow we've got a new episode of Worst Match Ever?
It is indeed.
New episode of Worst Match Ever is tomorrow, everyone. So go subscribe to partsFUNknown to check out us watching
Seth Rollins versus The Fiend.
Thank you. I love you all so much. We'll see you next week. I've been Luke and DAD. That has been Tempest.
Go Pack, go!
Jam that jam.